Welcome to an early morning edition of Geek-Men and the Masters of the Thunder Nerds. How we all doing tonight?
I like how you say it's early morning.
Did I say it's early morning?
You said, how are we doing tonight?
Yeah.
And then so it's an early morning edition of Geek-Men, Master of the Thunder Nerds, and then it's how we doing tonight, bro.
Yeah, I know.
You're gonna need to pick me up.
That's exactly what I'm talking about. I'm still half out of it.
I mean, I've already been up. I've already been up 5 hours.
I know your dogs wake you up so early.
Got a dog walk in. Played some farm simulator. Did some lumberjacking. Man,
you're all busy up in here today.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, me and Darth Burney, we run a farm together on Farming Simulator.
Yeah,
he does like all the crops and shit because I grew up doing that, so I have no interest in it. But I do. They have a forestry part on it where you like grow trees and like cut them down and process them into products to sell. It's pretty badass.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
What is this Farm Simulator?
Farm Simulator 25. Rush out and buy it now.
Is it just on like the?
It's on PC. Well, they have it on PlayStation as well, but yeah.
We'll look for it. I'm pretty sure there's a Switch game.
Yeah. Well, there's an older one that's Farm Simulator 22. That's pretty good. This one just came out. I don't know, November maybe.
Oh,
so been doing some lumberjacking lately.
It sounds interesting because that's like the only thing I do is pretty much just fart around on Animal Crossing.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like I can totally do that.
I've got another one that's like called Prison Simulator. Prison Architect is what it's called. It is amazing. And it's usually like low dollars too. Like it's a pretty low dollar game. So yeah.
Prison Simulator?
Prison Architect is the name of it. Like you can designate minimum security, maximum security, supermax. You can have a death row. Like you do it all. It's crazy.
Huh.
That would be awesome.
Yep.
I'm looking it up.
Okay. Well, so yeah, we're gonna be talking about Landman today. Speaking of, well, I can't really come up with a reason, but we're talking about Landman.
Well, we like to do reviews on shows. We did one on Shogun back in the fall, and we hope to do some more of these as we watch series kind of at the same times. We meant to do one on The Gentleman, but apparently we forgot to ever do the episode. So
that was definitely weird.
I mean, it is attached to ADHD Theater, so
yeah,
it's the brand.
Yeah, on par for course, so to speak. But all right, so let's dive into this here.
They have it for the Switch.
They do?
Yeah.
What, Prison Architect or the farm one?
Prison Architect.
There you go. Man. Yep.
$29.99.
Well,
a lot of times they'll do sales. That publisher do sales and stuff too. I think I only ended up paying like $15 for it.
Oh. There we go. Watch out for that sale. Okay, so this is a Taylor Sheridan show. Taylor Sheridan. Cannot say that right.
It's part of the Taylor verse.
Yeah. So, and he's just, I don't know, incredible, right?
He's definitely on fire.
Yeah.
I do think he's maybe starting to buy in a little bit into his own mythos. A little bit. Not as bad as I think some other people are, but I'm just worried, like, how long can he keep his foot on the gas and keep putting out good products? I mean, like, so he's did Yellowstone, obviously, 1883, Bass Reeves, 1923, Landman, Lioness, which I don't know have you guys watched Lioness?
Yeah, we watched the first season.
Yeah, the second season's pretty good too.
But
I mean, it's good, but he's in the second season as like a special operator.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, he always writes these like cool badass parts for himself and all that. And a lot of people don't like it. They didn't like him in the end of Yellowstone with the one episode. But I mean,
Well, he was in a couple.
yeah, well, he was all
But-
throughout Yellowstone for like the
Yeah.
last 2 or 3 seasons, I'm pretty sure. But
Yeah.
I mean, Mayor of Kingstown, like, just how long can this guy go? You know, hit after
Right.
hit.
That's crazy.
It is a genre that Hollywood has typically ignored. Like, all of these people in the center of the country who want to see stuff that's made about like the wide open spaces. Typically, Hollywood has always steered towards, you know, more urban
New York.
cities and that kind of stuff. So there was this huge base out there that wanted these kind of shows.
Yeah. I know I'm definitely into these kinds of shows. But yeah, I don't know. So overall, I think he's done some interesting work for sure, and I'm a fan of his writing. It is a question on whether or not he'll be able to keep going, or how far can he go. But yeah, we'll see. We'll talk about that here some more. So let's just get into the show. Let's see, how is this? You want to give a brief synopsis of like what the idea of it is?
Yeah.
Landman is?
Yeah. So basically, it follows Billy Bob Thornton's character, who is what they call a landman in the oil business. Basically, he's pretty much a fixer. Like, he's on the ground running the oil patches in real time while all the executives, you know, run the business from far away for the most part. So he's pretty much in charge of just keeping the business on track.
Right.
And whatever that entails. And, you know, mid to southern Texas can be a very challenging area from a lot of aspects. And basically, it is the chronicles of all of the hurdles and shit that get thrown at him during this whole process of trying to run these oil patches.
Right. And like one of the main things, one of the main quotes was, "Shit, you wouldn't want my job anyway."
Yeah.
He's just like, so right off the bat, it jumps right into it. And so in episode 1, it says oil workers and wealthy investors seek quick profits during a fuel boom in Texas. Tommy Norris, that's
Billy Bob
Thornton, tries to take his company to the top. And so immediately there's shit that's going down. You know, people are hitting this, they're at an oil rig or a pump, so to speak, and it blows up, and he's like,
well, the
feels the
first scene of the show is literally he's been kidnapped by the cartel, and they're trying to negotiate out a land lease that is land owned by the cartel that they want to drill on. Now, that scene happens, like, it doesn't really show you that there's a time lapse, but there is a time lapse from that scene to the next scene, which is they're on a leased road that the oil company built on the cartel land. And the cartel has stolen a private jet from the oil company and lands it in the road. And then a oil tanker who is using the road, because it's their leased road that they built, slams into the plane full of drugs and destroys the truck full of oil. And I mean, this episode or this series started off with a bang. And my wife had zero interest in this series, like, going into it. She's like, I just don't think it's going to be for me, the type of stuff that it's about. So I was like, okay, well, I'm going to turn it on. And she's sitting on the couch watching her book. 5 minutes in, she's glued. to it,
Yeah.
and then never gave up. We had to watch every episode together after
Yeah.
that. So, I mean, that just goes to show like it takes off fast, and it never lets up throughout the season.
It's quite bonkers, so to speak. I mean, that's what I was thinking. What about you? What did you think, Pumaira?
Yeah, no. This is my type of show. I don't like curly shows, so yeah, the fast paced and everything is perfect for me. It kept me glued too.
Yeah. So that was the first episode, and
Yeah, I think it's worth mentioning. So Dustin alluded to there's an explosion at an oil well. Well, Tommy Norris's son
yeah,
joins the crew that's working on. He's not finished college yet, but he's come home. He's trying to learn the oil business. He starts out at the bottom, which is weird because the guys in the crew, at least two of them, one's Michael Pena.
yeah,
And the other guy, I never remember his name, but he was Sons of Anarchy and Mayans. He was the head old school OG Mayan in that series. Like, you have these two very recognizable stars that die in the first episode.
right.
And
I
I'm
was
just like,
surprised.
yeah.
And they advertised this going into it. So if you're invested in this, you're thinking about the show, and you're like, oh, okay, so it's got Michael Pena in it. This might be a good show. You turn it on, boom, dead. First episode. Not even like Game of Thrones where they drag it out until like the end of the season or whatever. No, he's just straight up dead.
Yeah, I was so surprised by that because you've got two really good actors and boom, gone.
Yeah.
I love the way he ordered his coffee. A latte he ordered a frou-frou drink.
Yeah, he ordered a
everybody
frou-frou
else
drink.
Got black coffee.
Yeah, everyone else is ordering black coffee, and it's like the only coffee place in town.
Mm-hmm.
And he's just like, yeah, I want this frou-frou drink. And he's just like, no, you order it black.
Like, we ain't got time for that.
Right.
Well, and it's a scantily clad, like someone had the idea when these guys are leaving, all these trucks to go out to the oil patch, we'll have a coffee shop that's like all scantily clad women.
It's like a Hooters, but it's like a quickie stop for the oil guys. So I don't know. I thought that was funny. But so that was the first episode. And then next one is Dreamers and Losers. Tommy deals with the aftermath of a tragedy on the oil patch. The oil patch is what we're alluding to. Dynamics are disrupted when Ainsley moves into the oil house.
So in the first episode, he has a 17-year-old daughter who lives with his ex-wife.
Yeah.
And she comes to visit him for spring break.
Yeah.
Well,
with her boyfriend.
Yeah, with her boyfriend, who's like a star athlete, piece of shit. But she ends up staying for spring break. Well, Tommy Norris lives in a house with two roommates who also work for the oil company. There's Dale, who is like one of the chief engineers, who's played by, I can't remember his name, but he's in all of Taylor Sheridan shows. He was in Yellowstone.
Yeah.
He was in Mayor Kingstown. He's in Lioness. Dude's funny as hell.
Yeah, he is.
And then Nate is a lawyer that lives with them as well, kind of to help run that whole area. Well, in the second episode, Ainsley, his daughter, loves to just like walk around the house in a bikini and lay out by the pool. And poor Nate, who's probably in his 60s, is having trouble focusing because the house is his office.
Right. It's his office. That's where he works. But no. I feel bad for him. But it was funny. I just kept laughing the entire time.
Oh yeah.
Every time he's like gawking over her, and it's like, oh my god.
He's trying not to, but he can't help it, and it's like driving him insane.
Right. It's like there's this hot chick right over here, but you can't look at her directly. Look away. He was looking away, trying to control himself. But it's like a train wreck that you have to look at, and you have to just look. Oh no, I can't look.
Well, then she comes in the house looking for coconut oil. They didn't have any, so she got butter, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
To tan. Yeah. So that didn't help either.
Yeah, and she's played by an actress, Michelle Randolph, that was in 1923.
You're right.
She's John Dutton Jr.'s wife in 1923, which I think where that one ended, she's kind of like all screwed up and shit. Like she got injured or something. I can't remember what exactly happened to her, but total opposite. Like
yeah.
she's like a 17-year-old high schooler in this show, and I didn't even notice it was her at first.
So wait,
I didn't make that connection either. What did you say?
Was she the one that went to Africa then?
No, she's the one who lives with the Jack Dutton, actually what they call him. Okay. He's the youngest guy on the ranch.
Oh, yes.
And she lives there. Yeah. Yeah, at one point she's all jacked up.
Yeah,
I don't know why.
I feel like she was
pregnant?
injured, or she was traumatized. Something she saw in the woods, like a bunch of people were killed in front of her, and she was all traumatized by that.
Oh.
And so that's why she like hung around in the house, wouldn't go outside, and just was like all
yeah.
So it's that girl. Yeah. I totally didn't even make that connection in my mind. But
gotcha.
Boy.
All
right. Let's see. Next episode. Hell Has a Front Yard. Cooper makes an impression at the oil patch. Things get complicated for Tommy when his ex-wife, Angela, comes to town.
Yeah.
Dun, dun, dun.
So Cooper was injured in the explosion. He was the only one who survived out of the four guys on the crew. So obviously he's in the hospital during the end of during episode 2. Goddamn. And then they put him on a different crew. With two guys who were friends with one of the guys that was on the original crew.
Right.
And then also they put him underneath a guy named Boss, who's like the crew lead. And so he's back out in the oil patch working.
To be fair, he did ask to be put back out for another chance. So I admire that. Like,
I mean, he wanted to get right back out.
Right.
And start doing it again.
Everyone blew up, but he still wants to go out. And the impression they also are alluding to in that synopsis there, a couple people just try to beat the crap out of him.
Yeah. Was that now or later?
No, that's in a future episode.
I didn't think so.
Yeah, that happens at the end of that happens after the family dinner. The impression he makes in this one is the one guy gets injured and Cooper steps up and helps him run it with just 3 people instead of 4. Yeah.
Yeah. And he did a really good job.
Yeah. All right. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
That's why I didn't react first. I'm like, wait, too soon.
I thought that was somewhere close, but anyway,
that'll be the end. The end of episode 5, which we'll talk about.
Yeah. So after the episode 4 says after a rocky first impression, Rebecca comes to Tommy's defense. Cooper gets an unexpected call.
Yeah. So the oil company hires an attorney after the explosion to come out and handle basically the issues with the jet, and then also the explosion, which when she first gets there, it seems very much that they're going to try to pin it all on Tommy.
Yeah, and he was not having it.
Yeah, well, and his boss, who's played by John Hamm, was like, "Hey, every company has one of these guys. You have to, to keep it going." And of course, a company like this big, they're not in compliance with all safety standards.
Not at all.
But in
every
this,
single one of their patches were not up to code and just completely falling apart.
Yeah, they were old. Some pumps were like 60 years old.
Right.
But so she was kind of going after Tommy, but then in episode 4, he has to give a deposition on the explosion. And they're in this deposition room, and it's a bunch of male attorneys and then her, and basically they're coming at Tommy and at their legal team, and she literally just owns the entire room. Like just takes control and just slays all the opposing attorneys, and it is a great scene.
It really is. It was probably my favorite scene that she had in this series so far.
Yeah, by far.
It just was like, wow. And it also made Tommy respect her a bit. Like, okay, so she's got some chops. So I can get behind that, because the entire time before, she was all like attacking him, accusing him, sort like backhandedly, and he's just like, you know what, shit, I'm not putting up with this, So
didn't he take her to the patch or somewhere?
Yeah, I mean, they went
get to know what she's defending.
So they met out at one of the pumps, and so he could kind of give her a background on. And what's funny is, like, all these people think like they're progressive and they're green and all this shit, and they don't understand the amount of petroleum-based products that they're actually consume and own, or how much oil it takes to get their electric car batteries out of the ground. I mean, in the real world, people like to bury their head in the sand about all this green energy and how much better it is. And Tommy goes off on a good soliloquy about like how she's really not helping the world to be green, and she needs to get the stick out of her ass about their business. But she didn't work for the company at that point directly. She was just hired from a law firm and was sent out there. So she kind of didn't give a shit either.
Yeah. Do her job and go home.
Yeah. But
and then the other part of this episode, so I believe it was in episode 3, we didn't mention, Cooper had went to the home of the youngest guy who had died in the explosion to pay his respects, which no one thought was a good idea.
Right.
No.
Well, when he gets there, 2 of his crew, his second crew, are there because they were friends with that guy, and basically they're threatening him that he shouldn't be there. But the guy's wife actually like takes Cooper in, that like, I think it's the grandma or whatever, gets him some food.
Yeah.
But then he's like, sitting there like on the couch awkwardly between people trying to eat his food and stuff.
And she has a baby.
Yeah.
So she's whipping out her boob to breastfeed, and he's like all like awkward because it's, oh no.
Yeah. All the while these 2 guys are just, shooting him daggers because like they're like, you need to get out of here, you need to stay away, all that stuff. So the other part of episode 4 is he gets a call from her. She doesn't know who to call. She needs help with like figuring stuff out, all this. Well,
because he ran the entire finances and all that.
Yeah. So she's wanting his help, which then leads into the next episode, where really I think's kind of one of the main turning points of the season. Like episode 5 is probably one of my favorite episodes of I think the whole season.
So that says Tommy and his crew receive an unwelcome visit at the patch. Angela hosts a family dinner at the oil house.
Yeah, so the cartel shows up at the oil patch and wants their money back.
Yeah.
For the
Right.
drugs that were in the plane. Well, Tommy has to explain to them that, hey, like what you're doing is going to get the DEA involved, and they're going to be out here crawling all over this land, and you can say goodbye to being able to bring your drugs through here.
Right.
But they're pushing him because basically they think that he lost their drugs, like because it was an oil tanker. They think it's his oil tanker. Like they want compensated for the drugs, but basically Tommy's like, go F yourself. Like
Right.
we pay you for the lease of the land to get to the oil underneath of it. That's our road. We build it. Like it's not a
Right.
public road.
Right.
You landed a stolen plane there full of drugs.
It's your fault.
Yeah, we're not going to give you anything.
Yeah.
So to say the least, the cartel isn't happy
For sure.
when they leave or satisfied. And then the second part of this episode is probably my favorite scene of the entire show. So Cooper ends up helping out the young mother, the wife of the guy who died. He like stays, he mows the lawn, like does all this shit. Well, then he has to go to a family dinner that Tommy's ex-wife, Allie Larder, set up, which we probably haven't done a good job of talking
Explaining
about
her at all.
how insane this lady is.
Absolutely insane.
So she's remarried
Yeah.
to another
Yeah.
guy who's rich.
Yep.
Well, she comes back to stay with them
Because of Cooper
In the
his
hospital.
accident.
injuries and all that.
Right.
And-
Yep. Well, then her and Tommy start boning again. I mean, it sounds like their original marriage ended in flames.
Yeah.
And
But
this
at
isn't
least.
going so well either.
yeah, and Tommy's like, well, I'm willing to try it again if you want me to. So they're at this point trying to work it out. So she moves into the oil house, redecorates everything on her
Yeah.
On her
husband's
You do.
credit card.
dog.
Yeah.
Which is so cold.
Totally disrupts Nathan and Dale's life in the process.
Yeah.
You know, now
And she's throwing out all the food like that they
Oh, yeah.
eat.
Oh,
throws
yeah,
out all their
popcorn.
favorite foods.
Yeah.
And so she loves to cook. So she calls a family dinner to where
Yeah.
Cooper has to come, the daughter's there, the oil guys are trapped there, and Tommy. And it's hilarious because so she spends all this time making paella.
Right.
And Tommy's day was really rough because of the cartel interaction.
Yeah.
And he isn't in the mood to deal with her shit over dinner.
Yeah.
And everybody keeps calling what they keep calling it jambalaya.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, and she just keeps getting more and more
Yeah.
angry that they don't appreciate what's going on and all this.
Yeah.
And it is just a train wreck of
Absolute.
epic proportions.
Yeah.
Because nobody wants to eat out of that same dish. They all want their own plate.
Yeah, so it's supposed to be like kind of communal eating where you just set this big ass dish of paella in the middle, and then everybody they just eat the section in front of them.
Right.
And Tommy's like basically like, I want a plate. Like, why can't I have a plate in my own house? But she's like, you got to eat it the traditional way. He's like, I just don't understand why I can't have a fucking plate. And
Right.
just the awkwardness. I mean, if you've ever had a large family get together, I mean, my family's like this. It's just chaos,
Yeah.
like trying to all eat together and everything. And I mean, this was probably my favorite scene from the whole season 1.
it was outrageous, but I'll save my favorite scene for later.
Have you
because
guys watched The Bear?
Yes.
on
We have
Hulu?
watched The Bear. We just were not caught up.
So this reminds me, have you watched the Christmas dinner
Yes.
of the whole
Yes.
family?
Yeah.
This isn't as intense as that. I mean, I got anxiety watching that episode on The
Yeah,
Bear.
okay.
Like,
Jeez, the bear from the beginning gave me anxiety.
yeah, true.
Yeah.
But that episode, I just think's a
Just pocket.
masterpiece with
Yeah.
all the shit that's going on, how crazy they're all fighting with each other. Like
Yeah.
this scene reminded me of that.
Yes.
Absolutely. It was crazy, but dude.
And then the very end of the episode is Cooper returns back to the patch to his trailer, and a bunch of dudes beat the shit out of him. And all you see is his feet laying in the trailer, not moving when the episode ends.
Yeah, absolute trashed him. But let's see. Okay, where did we stop? Let's see.
That'd be 6 now.
6. Okay. So that's beware the second beating. Angela gets caught off guard when visiting Victor. The Norris's family rallies around Cooper during his time of need, which is he is all beaten up and in the hospital again.
Yeah. So they found him in the well, he didn't show up for his shift the next day. So they left him.
Yeah.
Well, word gets back that he didn't show up, and they're like kind of like, oh, well, that's not, him or whatever. And so eventually I forget exactly how he got found.
Yeah, I do too.
But they take him to the hospital.
Yeah.
Well, they're able to figure out Tommy, who did the beating.
Yeah.
And Tommy and Big Boss, they find out it's the other two guys on Cooper's crew.
Yeah.
So Tommy and Big Boss organize revenge on those fuckers.
Yeah. Oh, that was brutal.
Yeah.
I love that scene.
And then while all this is going on, well, Tommy had went to Midland earlier in the episode to see John Hamm's character.
Monty, yeah.
Yeah.
And he drops off his wife or ex-wife to go see her actual husband to kind of end things. Well,
yeah,
the husband's not there, but he surprise attacks her with 2 lawyers.
Right.
That are basically there just to settle the divorce.
Yeah.
So,
and it was like absolute done, cutting the ties, all that.
Yep. He didn't want to see her. Yeah.
Yeah.
And what's funny is the only thing she's worried about is her Bentley.
The car. Yeah.
Yeah. He just has to keep her Bentley. Like, this dude is obviously loaded.
Yeah.
He gave her a Bentley as a gift. And like, they're basically just shutting her down. Like, you can't have any of his assets, blah, 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 all this shit. And then she goes, what about the car? And they're like, oh, well, that was a gift to you, so you get to keep it. And she was like, where do I sign?
Right.
Yep.
Yeah. I mean, she had tried every single approach and they just kept shutting her down.
Mm-hmm.
So at that point, I feel like she was just, all right, you know what? Screw this. I'm just going to take my car and get out of here.
Yeah.
And of course she drives like 1,000,000 miles an hour and then on the road.
She's mad about that. Didn't even know about her son yet.
Right. Right. Cause she's just, friend's kid calling
upstairs.
And it's ringing on my phone
because it's ringing on Daddy's phone too.
Okay. Sorry. So anyway,
she's rushing back, trying to call Tommy. Tommy had just found out about Cooper.
Yeah.
So they're
and
all
he's just like, I can't do this right now. Oh boy.
His ringtone for her too. Whew.
Yeah. Let's see. Okay, so all roads lead to a hole. Tommy's cartel problem continues to escalate. Angela and Ainsley get to know their community.
Yeah.
Yeah, this really starts probably one of the funniest things in
It really
the
does.
show. But I mean, so the cartel situation just keeps escalating.
Yeah.
Like the cartel's not getting off their demands. They're not willing to pay them to recoup the drugs. It's like cost of doing business.
Right.
Like you're not going to be able to guarantee that every shipment's going to get into the United States, scot free. And so they're just Mitch and Tommy are just holding out. We're not going to pay them. But then Angela and Ainsley decide they're going to do community outreach. And so they end up at an old folks home.
Yeah.
A retirement home.
Yeah, because she gets some bug up her ass like, oh, they're just leaving them there to die and all this. So she wants to go in and like restore their freedom and I'm not sure, breathe a little life into them. And that whole storyline there just sort of takes off and gets outrageous. So
she went to a store and bought all its alcohol and party supplies and cards and games.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, they went back and had a great time. Like all the old people were getting drunk, playing cards.
Yeah.
Like partying in the afternoon before their nap.
Yeah. Sounds like me.
It sounds like a good time is my thing of it. Oh.
But yeah, well then they're hooked. Like you could tell the staff wasn't a big fan of what they were doing.
Yeah.
But then the old people get hooked. Like they're asking the staff, when are they coming back?
Right.
And so then that perpetuates the story through the rest of the episodes.
Yeah. Oh boy. All right. So then let's see. Clumsy This Life. Tommy gets connected to the National Guard. Rebecca becomes increasingly suspicious of Cooper. So now what's her face? Rebecca has a bug up her ass about Cooper and how
it was all his fault.
She's like trying to frame him essentially like, oh, so now this, you're the only person who survives who just happens to be in cozy with his wife now. And it's like,
well, and what really pissed him off was so the oil company worked out settlements to just help the families get by.
Yeah.
And Rebecca is trying to bottom dollar everything.
Yeah, for sure.
Mitch gave them approvals to, like, if they refuse, move up some, and Rebecca ain't having it when they're going to present the offers. And they go speak to the wife and the other wives all together, and two of them accept pretty much immediately, but the one that Cooper's been helping out doesn't.
Yeah.
And so
she had gotten a phone call about something else and had to leave.
Yeah, and then so Cooper's there when they come back, and he's basically helping her negotiate more out of the company that he works for and his dad works for.
Right.
So then that pisses off Rebecca because she can't stand to be beat.
Right.
Especially like since she's a lawyer and everything.
Yeah, because the offer was like 250,000.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And I think they were authorized to go to 500,000. Mitch said, "Hey, you can go to 500,000 if needed."
Yeah. Yeah. So,
and then Cooper gets him up to $1 million.
Yeah.
And they think it's just for her, and then he's like, "No, for all three."
Yeah. Everybody gets it.
And basically, when they call it in to the owner of the company, Monty. I think I keep calling him Mitch.
Yeah.
Mitch is Monty.
Yeah. Okay.
So when they call Monty, he's like, you know, that son of a bitch is fired, which is his Landman son.
Yeah.
Cooper's like, I quit anyway. Like, you don't have to worry about that. So, yeah, it was.
Then Monty ends up in the hospital having a heart attack.
Yeah,
because he wasn't expecting that big of a deal.
Yeah.
Well, and you could just
Payout.
tell the amount of stress he was under.
That was just the last straw.
between the cartel and this settlement just landsliding into this, 250
cluster.
plus just
Mhm.
absolute just snowballs, and he's just
Well, and with so the cartel, they've been escalating. Well, they put Tommy in contact with the National Guard, and they offer to allow them to train on property that is right across the road from the cartel property,
right.
just to go out there and blow shit up and kind of scare the shit out of keep the cartel, like, let them know, hey, like, we've got some big players we can bring out here.
Yeah.
The only problem is the National Guard actually blows up a cartel van, which that scene seemed a little weird to me, because like they blow up the van and then the pilots are like asking if people were in the van or something, and I'm like, the van's driving,
moving right
along the road. Like, you didn't just blow up a stationary van. Like, that scene was a little confusing on what they expected to happen. And then, obviously when he's talking, I think it's in the last episode, to the National Guard guy, the National Guard guy's like, no one was supposed to be out there. And I'm like, your guys saw the van. Like, they blew up the van. And so that was kind of why the National Guard guys were freaking out, kind of escaped me, because it seemed like it was an intentional.
Yeah. I thought there was more of an understanding, like, okay, here is why you're here as a deterrent to those people over there.
Right.
It seemed more like they explained that from the get-go, and then they're like, oh no, were there people in the van? And it's like, of course there are people in the van. There are scumbags in the van. Like, you blew it up. He said multiple times, he's like, go away, have these people get the hell away from the place, and in an hour it'll be cleaned up.
Right.
Because cartel wants to cover that shit up. So I don't know. Let's see. Let's move on. What was that? Episode 8?
Yeah, so we're on 9, Wolf Camp.
Okay, on Wolf Camp, Monty puts Tommy in a tough position because a recent health scare, his heart attack, and then Cooper comes up with a plan. And Cooper basically asked the lady, the girl he's been helping, because they've had the sexual tension going on. There's an attraction there. And so he asks her, like, is this something you want to explore? I needed to know, because I'm fine with just doing whatever. I don't care. But if you want, I have a plan. I can have a plan for us. So he like puts that on her, which I thought was like awkward.
Yeah.
Well, a lot of how this relationship is going is awkward. Yeah, I mean, she's just lost her husband. She hasn't even grieved really at all.
Right.
Yeah, but she alludes to that he treats her better than her husband ever did.
Right. He looks at her like,
yeah. So, I mean, but it's just awkward how it's playing out, which is probably understandable. Like, I mean, as a young man, it's probably not a good idea to get tied in with somebody right after they lose their husband. But I mean, you can't always control what the heart wants or some bullshit like that. So
Yeah.
For sure.
yeah, needs to just go to the strip club and get over it. But whatever.
I
I mean,
know.
she's rich at this point. I mean, invest that $1 million and live off the interest.
Right.
But that's probably why he's hanging around. He wants that
Exactly.
mill, that cool mill.
I can see that. Like, okay, so that's why he's hanging around. I took that as he was going to use that money to leverage what he wanted out of those other lands he wanted
And
to
see, I don't think he needs a lot of money to execute his plan, because basically, so his plan involves, there's all these little pieces of land that have oil pumps on them, but their wells are like basically running dry at this point.
Right.
And no company will come in and buy that lease from that person just to frack it to be able to get more oil out of the shale horizontally. And so you've got all these people out there that have all these parcels that nobody's interested in individually. Well, Cooper comes up with what's really a good idea is you consolidate, basically get all these leases together, get all these people to sign a lease to their land over to you. And now when you have that much property, an oil company will take action because there's so many wells that it's worth, when they do the cost calculations, it's worth them to be able to actually execute a project on that many different sites.
Right.
And so, I mean, it's really a good idea. Plus he's offering a higher percentage back to the people to take care of them. And it's his try to do the oil business right, because he doesn't agree with, especially with how they approach them about the payout. He doesn't agree with how the oil companies are executing their business, treating their employees, treating the families of their employees.
Right.
He's just over it. So this is his chance to build up his own. He wants to run an oil company. I mean, he specifically tells her that at one point. But I mean, he might need a cash infusion to do it, but I don't think he's paying these people any money on the front side.
Yeah,
it's
I didn't
just
get that sense either.
Get them all signed up, and then he's controlling the leases from them. He's made a contract with them on what percentage they'll get back. Yeah. And then he's going to sell all of his lease rights. He's going to set up a new lease with an oil company to come in and do the job, where they pay him and then he pays
everybody else.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so it is, I mean, comparatively a pretty good plan, because he's basically just going to take a bunch of shit no one wants and consolidate it and then make it attractive.
Right, for sure. Okay. So episode 10, The Crumbs of Hope, and this is where the season ends. Tommy and Cammy discuss whether to gamble or play it safe. Now Cammy is what's her face's
Monty's
wife,
played by Demi Moore.
Yes. And then the cartel makes a move. So here's where it gets interesting. Well, it's been interesting the entire time, but this is where clearly the dude they've been dealing with prior has just been like a low rung or just a nobody, essentially, because this other dude comes in and he's just like kills all the people and is like, okay, I understand, we're on the same side, to Tommy. And then he proceeds to be like, look, I get it. You're a necessary evil. I'm a necessary evil. Let's get back to working things out.
Yeah. So Tommy goes to Midland to see Monty in the hospital.
Mhm.
He's having bypass surgery. It's like his third or fourth bypass.
Yeah.
So this guy's pretty jacked. And he speaks to his wife because Monty made him the president of the company.
Yeah.
He actually hired Rebecca, the lawyer, as a vice president of the company to negotiate out a bunch of deals when she doesn't know how to do any of it. So Tommy talks to Monty's wife about making a decision on a project. So basically what they're going to do is they're going to start revamping wells.
Mm-hmm.
And they start out with a few to see if they can go in and frack them and get the production back up. And they need the first ones to perform at a certain level so then they can pay for the next ones, so they can pay for the next ones. Well, they have to take out a loan basically to do all this, and it'll risk all of their assets.
Yeah.
Will basically be signed as collateral. So if this project doesn't go through, doesn't succeed, then they may lose everything.
Right.
Well, Cammy basically, Monty's incapacitated. Cammy basically says, we've rolled the dice before. Let's roll the dice this one last time. So Tommy drives back to Midland to start getting Rebecca up to speed,
Right.
and Dale and Nate.
And Nate, who begrudgingly agrees to cooperate. He was totally against this coalition, so to speak, because I mean, Rebecca as a vice president or whatever is just like, she doesn't know anything about anything.
Yeah. So they meet out at one of the oil patches to discuss the situation. Tommy to explain to Rebecca how fast she needs to get up to speed, like who's going to help her, all that. But then once they're done with that meeting, the cartel snatches Tommy.
Yep.
Takes him to basically like a dungeon built underneath a bar. I don't know if they were in Mexico or like on the border of Mexico. I don't think it said.
No, I didn't see it say anything either.
Basically, the cartel guys who've been terrorizing him throughout the season are there, and they're torturing him. I mean, they hit his hand with a hammer, drive a nail into his one leg.
Yeah.
He's got a bag over his head, so he can't see what's going on. But then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, you start hearing all these gunshots and all this. So you kind of think like maybe the police or something's found his stuff and they're coming to get him. I don't like, or they tracked him somehow because he did have the cell phone in his boot.
Yeah.
But then it ends up being more cartel people. And even Tommy had said, oh, like you didn't tell the boss because they blew up an oil pump to get back at them. And Tommy's like, well, once they put that fire out, they're going to see that it was a bomb. And now you're going to have basically the entire weight of the United States government coming down here, and you're going to be out of business.
Right. And
he's like, oh, he looks at the guy's face and he goes, oh, you didn't tell the boss what you were doing or something like that. Or that didn't come from the boss. And so that guy was worried. Well, then the boss shows up, which is played by Andy Garcia.
I thought he said, I am the boss.
Oh, no, he did. But he clearly wasn't.
Yeah. They all report to somebody. So, but yeah, Andy Garcia and his goons come in, kill all those dudes, and then are extremely nice to Tommy. Take him out of there as the police or whatever shows up, give him a place to clean up so they can take off. But like Dustin said, they just want things to go back to the way they were. But also Andy Garcia wants to learn more about the oil business.
Yeah.
Which I think is going to, with the big gamble on Monty's wife on that project, and then Andy Garcia's character wanting to know more about the oil business. I think that'll be like what propels this in the season 2 will revolve around those two themes.
Yeah. And whatever Cooper's got cooking.
Yeah, and I think that'll be a good storyline too. But then at the end of the episode, Monty dies.
Mm-hmm.
So now they're rolling forward with this, and there's no way out of this project. It has to succeed, or his family loses everything. And then, then the cartel's sitting here salivating on what else can they do,
right,
to help each other out. So, yeah.
So overall, I don't know. What do you think? What do you think about the overall the season?
I mean, I loved the season. Like, there was not an episode that I thought fell flat, or I felt like it was just filler. To like, I mean, everything moved the story along. There wasn't crap that just didn't belong or didn't fit.
Yeah.
It just, to me, this is probably, I would say this might be my second favorite show that he's done.
First being what?
Mayor Kingstown, hands down. Some of the early Yellowstone seasons compete with this.
For sure.
I think the first season of Yellowstone probably is my favorite. But I still think I just enjoy the characters.
Yeah.
More in this. It balances out the drama with a lot more humor than
and half the
Yellowstone did.
And half the humor's
Angela.
No, well, yes, but no, I was talking about half the humor's Billy Bob Thornton. He's Billy Bob.
Mm-hmm.
Just as Landman.
It's like Bad Santa, like turned into an oil guy,
right?
And like it just Billy Bob's always had this like smart ass attitude, like real quick with an insult or a joke, like and he's exasperated the whole time. Like everybody's like, "Oh my god, that's so bad," and he's like, "Oh, it's just another day."
Yeah,
like. This is my life. He's resigned to the fact that it's just going to be effed up as much as possible.
Yeah. I don't know. What did you think, Kumaira?
Yeah, it was really good. I can't wait for the next season. Everything he said. It's crazy.
Yeah. I mean, I'm interested in the storyline. I think this definitely has potential to go on to another season at least, if not more. But I don't think anything's been announced yet, has it?
I don't know if officially.
Yeah.
I would be very surprised.
Yeah, same.
Because just of all the critical acclaim that the first season's gotten so far.
Yeah.
I'd be very surprised if they don't at least do a season 2 of it.
Yeah. And I mean, I think every character works.
Yeah, there weren't any that just didn't fit.
Yeah.
Right.
Everyone seems to have a purpose. Like, as screwed up as their relationship has been, Angela, Tommy, and his kids, it all just sort of works. And you could tell, you know, they alluded to, well, they did just come out and say at one point that he had the high life and was rolling the dice and then lost it all because the oil business just absolutely crashed.
Yeah, the price of oil dropped below, what'd they say, like $60 a barrel, and they just lost their ass because they've got to keep oil being a commodity. They've got to keep the price of oil between a certain range or it becomes unprofitable for them. Because if it goes too low, they can't keep production high enough to continue to make money, and it doesn't cover their costs. But a lot of people don't understand, if it goes too high, people stop driving. So back when gas was like $4 a gallon in 2009, people like Americans just stopped driving. They didn't drive on vacations, all that, which then the demand lowers and it drives the price of oil down. So basically, these people, they'll buy into the oil company, but then if oil doesn't stay high enough or within that range, they can lose a shit ton of money real fast and be out of business.
Yeah.
Because you're not just taking that cash you're making and putting it in the bank. You're reinvesting it into in the stock market, into assets that you have inside the company. Like a company just doesn't have a vault like Scrooge McDuck where they can just go in and take money anytime they need it. So if they don't keep cash flow up and they can't cover their payments, then the debtors come calling and they have to close their business.
Yeah. But like I said, so I think every character works in their own sort of screwed up way. I am interested in, as weird as it sounds, I am interested in the storyline of Angela and how she took all of her little nursing home people to the strip club and just her antics with them. I found that extremely entertaining.
Oh yeah.
I have a feeling that that boyfriend is going to get in trouble though, lose a scholarship or something. It just seems inevitable. But
I mean, there was so many laugh out loud moments, which very few shows, I mean, at least for me, do that anymore.
Right.
Because humor has been attacked so much through the cancel everybody years that a lot of shows aren't willing to like
do edgy
get jokes outside, get back to like those edgy jokes and all of that. And like you can just tell like Taylor Sheridan don't give a shit. Like he's like,
love it.
Fuck you guys. Like we're gonna do we're gonna do what we want to do.
Yeah.
And you can feel his target audience isn't the people that buy into the cancel culture.
Right.
So it's all the people in the middle of the country that are like, yeah, we're tired of watching that bullshit.
Right. So I'm part of that culture too.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Like, this is definitely a show for me. So that's what makes it exciting. But overall, I thought this was a great show. I enjoyed every episode, like you said. And I'm looking forward to season 2. We're currently watching finally
Mayor
of Kingstown.
I love that show.
It's the latest season, and it's like, man, this came out in June, and we're just finally getting to watch it. It's like, man, this is it. It sucks. Like I should have watched this sooner. Like, but it's also a great show.
Oh, the way this season ends, you won't be able to wait for season 4.
Right, exactly. I'm looking forward to it. So, so we should wrap this up here. Any last thoughts about Landman other than
I think
I learned a lot.
We've covered it all.
Next.
I learned a lot.
And that's the thing. Like, it's not a show that's like preaching at you. You're just able to sit and watch and take it in, and you may not know anything about the oil business, but you're learning.
Yeah, it tells you what you need to know for it to make sense.
And it's this sort of osmosis just sort of sinks in, and you're like, okay, I get that. I get it now. Okay.
That's a hard job.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
I do
now,
not.
If you're someone who's
any of those folks
100% brainwashed to the idea of green energy, you're probably going to find this show frustrating because it does shoot holes through that ideology pretty hard. So if you're out there, probably rolling around in a 100% electric car and, you got a wind turbine in your backyard and solar panels, this may not be the show for you.
Yeah, that's fair. But, so that's our show. I think the next time we're going to do one of these reviews, I think it's maybe going to be around American Primeval. Yeah.
Yeah.
Does it sound good? I'd like to do that soon.
I think I'm going to rewatch it.
Yeah.
Like as soon as we set a date for it, I'm going to rewatch the series again leading up to it because it's 6 episodes.
Right.
I mean, I think it might be a total of like 7 hours once you add all the episodes up. I mean, it's not crazy for at least for me to rewatch it. I can be driving Farm Simulator and be watching a movie or a show at the same time.
Right.
So, I mean,
so I think it's a show that we're gonna review soon. And then eventually we'll get back to those other shows. There's a lot of stuff I want to review, but just to sit and talk about with you guys. So, yeah, if you have any suggestions, things that you think we should watch and want to review, a deep dive like we did just now, where we talk about each episode, and let us know, and we'll consider it. But yeah, until next time, let's see. There's coming up. We have it's frickin' figures. We're going to be talking about all this cool stuff, the new announcements, and all the other fun things that get us excited about figures. And then next week, next Friday, we're going to be watching The Guyver and The Hunt. So tune in for that. Yeah, so otherwise, hope you have a good one. And yeah, Thunder Nerds ho.